It's time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. Thedartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Okay, welcome to Dirt Talk.
How's it going?
Good.
Good to hear.
November
20th. Yes.
2012. Steve Pananciamo with Mystery Mark, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. So ask me how my weekend was.
I was just getting ready to. You were in Columbus, right?
Yeah, I was in Columbus for the Buckeye Open, which I found remarkable in a number of ways. And we will get to the cricket right away from last week. But I did want to say you'll get a kick out of this. Jill and I were, like, goofing around. And she bet me, like, I don't know, she could throw me off the bed in 5 seconds because she's a paramedic, so she knows how to kind of, like, manipulate, dead bodies or something.
So were you playing dead, or what was?
Well, sort of. I mean, we were just kind of goofing around, and that isn't the thing. The thing was, I woke up the next day, and we were going to wake up at, like, I don't know, 5 in the morning and drive to Chicago to play.
Right, for the South
local,
Side?
Yeah, for the South Side thing.
Yeah.
And we were up too late because we played the triples, and it was just like, so we slept in. So I'm like, we're taking our time, and we had Chuck Pankow stayed in our room, so we're like, talk to him a little bit, say bye-bye. Go downstairs, have breakfast, get coffee, smoke, whatever. And then we hit the road 2 hours later.
Okay.
Jill's driving. And I am, like, just zoning out in the passenger seat, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. And all of a sudden, I tap the bottom of my glasses, and I feel something wiggle. And I kind of look down, and I'm like, why is that moving? Did I break something?
Yeah.
So I take them off, and there are no lenses.
Oh, nice.
So I'm literally, not only did, somehow as we were goofing around, the lenses popped out.
Right.
Neither of us noticed, and I didn't notice while I was wearing them for 2 hours in the morning. That sums up my weekend in Columbus. That's how bad I played. That's how bad everything went for me. So it was, like, wonderful. It's a wonderful time.
That's awesome.
It's a great tournament. I only had one beef. And because, I've gone there now, I don't know, maybe 3 years in a row.
Okay.
And this year they got like a new mixer and they were playing music and stuff. But I mean, they're playing it kind of loud. And at one end, there was other music playing while at the same time something else was playing. And I had a really hard time focusing. And then they would turn the music down to, like, make board calls, then turn it back up, and then the song would change and the tempo would change. And at one point, I'm throwing and the music changed, and I changed the rhythm of my throw to match the music. And I'm like, okay, there's something seriously wrong with you if the music is messing with you this bad. So yeah, it was a nightmare.
Why would you let the music bother you?
I don't know, because I was listening to it too closely because it was not quite familiar enough to block it out completely. Yeah. So you can ask me about blocking music out, because I made one interesting observation on Sunday. But we should get to cricket, because we've been promising this.
We do need to get to the cricket.
So let's start out with cricket, and where
do we want to start out with the disclaimer before we get involved in this?
Oh, let's by all means run a disclaimer. Although, yeah, okay, fine.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on Dart Talk do not necessarily reflect the thoughts or opinions of the hosts, our sponsors, any official Dart sanctioning organization, and post hoc ergo propter hoc, any and all spelunkers, debunkers, raconteurs, roustabouts, technocrats, hepcats, cat ladies, Lady Gaga, the Four Seasons, the Three Stooges, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, hipsters, kibitzers, hellions, the fickle finger of fate, or Tom Waits.
Okay. So much for that.
So cricket. Who came up with the term hypermodern cricket?
I did.
Okay.
I did because, well, it evolved with me having all sorts of problems with the articles on thermonuclear cricket that I had been reading, which they kind of like. And I actually talked to Tony Payne, the guy who wrote him. He was in Columbus over the weekend. And I didn't get a chance to talk to him long about it. And he doesn't have Skype or anything because what I'd really like to do is get him on the show so we could talk about it. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that happen.
Right.
We should, remind me after we're done with this segment on cricket to talk about what we have for December.
Okay.
Like what the plan is. And then we'll announce the other stuff. So
we actually have a plan?
Yes.
If we could stick to it?
I have a plan, and I would like to stick to it, and hopefully we'll be able to, because I think that would enhance our listeners' experience.
I'm sure.
Right.
That's what everybody's looking for.
Well,
all right, so.
Right, so.
We have.
Right.
You have established the type of players.
I have, but first, well, I don't know. I mean, there's some sad news. One of a popular darter in Indianapolis lost her life coming home from a blind draw.
This weekend? That's too bad.
I think it was Thursday night.
All right.
Last Thursday night. So condolences, thoughts, and prayers to Tiffany Shull and her family and everybody who knew her in Indianapolis and the Indianapolis Dart Association.
Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, she was nice. You know, I would talk to her every year when I went to St. Pat's, and that's one of the tournaments that I literally haven't missed since I started playing tournaments.
Right.
I think in the last 8 I've hit 7, or in the last 7 I've hit 6 or something. So it was always one of those smiley faces who was always, friendly and stuff. And as usual, because she's a woman, I didn't really see her play much.
Yeah.
Because the women are all off playing while the men are playing. So that's too bad. So that was kind of sad news. So if you haven't already, send your thoughts and prayers her family's way. I'm sure they'll be greatly appreciated. I mean, a one-car accident.
Yeah.
Coming home, like, at, I don't know, 2 in the morning from a blind draw, immediately alarm bells go off in my head, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it's weird. I mean, we think of, the darters as a community.
Yeah.
And I like to think that. I'd like to think we're a community, even though apparently, a lot of people don't agree with some of the thoughts and opinions expressed on this show.
Of course, but not everybody in every community has all the same beliefs.
No, but, we don't
they look out for
one
another.
Yeah, and maybe we can all try harder on that one.
Yeah.
So you guys, keep an eye on each other, especially at the end of the night. I mean, we're not speculating, and I don't know that, watch out with the texting and driving, too, now that I think of it. I mean, it's just sad. I'm tired of hearing of these tragedies. Let's make 2013 like a better year in terms of like people's health and whatnot. I think that'd be like worthy.
I agree.
And then play less cricket. He said, as he mentioned, by the way, in Chicago on Saturday, we'll be having a cricket regional for anybody that hasn't qualified yet that wants to try to get in. You can email the show for details. It'll be at Gamblers in Chicago, 4900 or 4903 North Pulaski. It's right off the freeway. So everybody's welcome as long as you're, an affiliated ADO player. Sign-ups at noon. Going to try to start around 1, and I'd like to get, 3 or 4 people qualified if we can get the numbers in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, cricket.
Where would you like to start?
Well, we're talking about how it's important that you identify your opponent.
Yeah.
And the idea here, and I think most people that play cricket understand that in some way, shape, or form, you play the player Whereas, in 01, you're pretty much just going to play the board.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time you play the player is if you got one dart in your hand with 50 left and they're sitting
They're
on
not in and out.
202.
Yeah.
You'd be, I think mathematically it'd be silly to go for the bull there.
Right.
Just give yourself 3 at a double and, life should be all right. Backfires once in a while, but everything does. So at some point, strategy's irrelevant if you can't hit what you're aiming at.
Well, that's true.
But aiming at the correct number is also behooves.
It also improves your chances.
It behooves you.
Yes.
You be behooven.
But so in cricket, you want to identify your opponent because you're playing against your opponent as opposed to the board.
Well, yeah, because the idea here is that when you're playing cricket, you have so many more options as far as like what you can throw at, how often you can throw at it, how often you can ignore it, that the permutations of all these strategies become, exponentially like in the millions.
How long does it take you to identify your opponent?
Well, it depends on if you know what to look for. So I'll give you an example. If you're playing let's say you get called to play some match.
Right.
Okay. And you've never seen somebody before.
Correct. Do you watch him warm up then? Or that's not really not going to give you any information on him.
I will watch him throw like 6 darts. And I won't really look at whether he hits anything or not. What I'll do is I'll look at how they look in the air. Like, is there a consistent pattern of flight?
Okay.
Does he do anything unusual at the line that would lead one to believe he'll be an inconsistent kind of player? I mean, I've heard people tell me that, I look really good at the line. So then I assume most people I play, when they see me throw, will be like, well, he must be pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These are not definite. They're not going to be definitive as far as like, there's some very good players that look pretty unorthodox, right at the line. There are guys with accordion arms.
But that's really not going to help you identify what type of player they are.
Well, that's one thing. Another thing is, I'll look at how somebody pulls their darts out of the board. That's a very good tell to let you know how often they play. Somebody that's only been playing for a year invariably will pull their darts with their dart hand.
Yeah.
Because they haven't scratched it on the wires of a board enough to realize that you really want to use your offhand to pull your darts. Which is another reason why soft tip drives me nuts, because I can't get the darts out of the board easily with my offhand, And then I end up with like this callus, It's like, oh, God, just little things bugging you, Such a whiner.
Yeah.
Such a whiner.
Well, if you played more soft tip, you'd probably get used to pulling the darts out of the board.
Well, that's true. Now, here's one of the principles, and I don't know if we touched on this, but one of the fundamental concepts of hypermodern cricket, and we are going to be talking about identifying your opponent. What you asked a good question is, how do you do that? One of the things that influences your decision-making in hypermodern cricket is not only what's going on, like, right at the time. Like, I've got this close, he's got that closed, I've got this points, he's got those points, I've got one here, he's got one there. It's also, what happened the leg before? Who's got the diddle in the next leg, or do you have to diddle in the next leg? So the idea behind hypermodern cricket, when you're making decisions, is you're looking at the totality of a match. Yeah. For instance, you've seen me play cricket, right?
Right.
One of the things that is easy to do in hypermodern cricket, if you go first, is, let's say at the beginning you close at 20s, you got a dart left in your hand, and you go for the 18s.
Okay.
Okay, and then they go for the 19s, and then, right away you go for the 18s again. Now it's 20s against 18s to 19s, and then you try to get your points back, right?
Sure.
In the second leg, invariably, I will leave the 18s if I can and go from the 20 to the 19. Reason being is he hasn't thrown at the 18s yet.
Right.
Right? So I've done that where I've frozen people off the top of the board, and then the next leg I freeze them off the bottom of the board. And then come down to the third leg, they're not comfortable. I've also done it the other way. I played this. I played a match with one listener who shall remain nameless.
Okay.
Where I left him the 19s, and he crushed them.
Yeah.
He must have gotten 500 points on the 19s. And then the next leg, I'm like, let's see if he could do it again. And I left him the 19s, and eventually he got tired of hitting them.
Right.
You know? I mean, so that's an example of, in hypermodern cricket, playing the guy, looking at the totality of the situation, and then figuring out what's going to work best for you based on who you're playing. Right? So we've got all these categories of players. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Now, but when you do something like that, does it matter how big of a point lead they have? Like, I mean, if he's hitting 500 points on 19s,
obviously, I'm getting points somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, I'm getting points on 20s and 18s and 17s. And
as you're closing everything out?
Yeah. Yeah, the idea is that, here you're counting marks. If he's 5 counting the 19s and you started out with a 40-point lead, you can 5 count the 18s, the 17s, the 16s, and the 15s, while he's 9 counting or 5 counting the 19s, and you're not really going to be that far behind, but
you have a huge advantage.
You're going to have all these numbers he's still going to have to close.
Yeah.
Right? So kind of, touchy-feely thing on that. But, obviously, I was pointing somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or,
you weren't down 500 to nothing.
No. Anyway, so we can run down the categories of players, and then we can kind of talk about them and explain why it's important that you put somebody in one of these categories.
Yeah.
Because it'll factor in later when you start choosing
your decision
how to
making.
play. Right, when you in your decision making. So, all right, we're on the 15. Quick break, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Oh, I need to.
Second quarter.
Brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. See, what they do in radio is when you come out of a break, they'll play a little piece of music.
Yeah.
And it keeps you from, going from silence to popping into the mic, which somebody mentioned to me, a while ago, which can be very annoying.
Yeah.
And every week I'm like, just get a quick little bumper, every week I forget. It's just killing me.
You have to email the tech department on that.
But I will have time. I don't have to literally play for a month.
Oh, really?
I don't have to play a tournament. I mean, I guess I could if I wanted to, but I'm not. So I'll have time to catch up on some of this. We're going to get the website going and stuff, so it's going to be pretty cool. Some exciting stuff.
All right.
Okay, so should I just let me run down the list, and then we'll take them one by one.
Okay.
All right, these are the archetype cricket players that you're liable to
run into.
And if you could think of some that aren't in the list, by all means, email darttalk@gmail.com and let me know the error of my ways.
Please.
I want to say something about the error of my ways too. Now that I think of it.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, these are the archetypes that we've identified so far. You have the hero, the actor, the gunslinger, the juicer, the god, the roller, the gambler, the tactician, and the pill.
The pill.
The pill.
Why is that one in quotes and the other ones aren't?
Well, because calling someone a pill is somewhat a detrimental comment.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever come across somebody that, he's a pill or she's a pill. I mean, we all kind of know what that means.
Yeah.
But it's, not dirty or obscene. It's just, I think everybody kind of knows what that means. But we'll define it for everybody. Of course, it's very helpful if you're playing cricket to identify whether you're playing somebody who is primarily a soft tipper or primarily a steel tipper. Because soft tippers generally, there's only like 2 or 3 categories. Again, I don't play a lot of soft tip, but they all kind of play the same way.
Do they play the same way even in steel? Or do they...
Yeah.
Yeah? It doesn't matter?
Yeah, most people, I think you'll find the vast majority of players play one way. And that's to your advantage. If you can identify what way they play, it makes them infinitely more predictable. And the more predictable they are, the easier it is to, change things up on them and maybe get an advantage and, turn something around. I mean, caveat here, we're going to talk strategy, but in the end, I mean, if if somebody's hitting 9 count after 9 count and you're hitting 3 count after 3
you're
count,
not win.
I cannot help you.
Yeah.
I just can't help you. It was funny. There was some golf commercial. It must be for like CDW with Charles Barkley. And Paula Creamer comes up to him on the driving range and watches him take 2 swings, and she just shakes her head. She's like, I can't help you. Right. She just walks away. It's kind of funny. Not that I'm comparing anybody to Charles Barkley, but, if, strategy can only take you so far, and this goes into, like, teaching people how to miss, but that's another kind of topic. So anyway, so we had hero, actor, gunslinger, juicer, god, roller, gambler, tactician, and the pill. So, let's
start with hero.
Let's start with hero. Now, you see my note there. Can you
ego.
Get a concept? Yeah, ego. A hero player, to my mind, is someone that plays a game to gratify their own ego. So, a hero player, and everybody knows what a hero dart is somebody that, against their better judgment, will take a low percentage shot for the sheer gratification and the thrill they get for hitting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're playing a hero, you can sucker them into taking those shots.
Yeah.
And that's to your advantage. Now, it will bite you
when they hit it.
Right. But it's one of those things where if you're playing the percentages and you've got an 80% chance, there is that 20% where, oh, my, I can't believe he hit that.
Yeah.
So, take that, for what it's worth. But I was thinking of giving people an example of heroes. But, I talked to a lot of listeners in Columbus, and a couple of them apparently are, they got a little grapevine going.
They don't like your opinions?
Well... And again, anybody who doesn't like my opinion,
it's too bad.
Feel free to, email the show and, put your name on your opinion. I put my name on all my opinions, and I stand by everything I say, and I show up, and I listen to everyone. I listen to criticism. I listen to compliments, and I've sought out criticism on the show, and feel free to offer it. Just because I don't agree with you is no reason not to offer your opinion. But the idea somehow that, if you have an opinion and you want to put your name on it and you want to send it into the show, we'll give it due consideration. And if you think somehow that you're getting jobbed by us and you're not getting your say, then we'll put you on the show and you can talk
let us know.
It.
Don't tell somebody else.
But the idea somehow that I'm going to call 2 people, and they're going to call 2 people, and they're going to call 2 people, and all that is. I just thought it was.
Well, then the message is going to be all jumbled anyway after that.
Well, and that's the other thing. If you're going to criticize the show, have the decency to listen to it.
Right.
If you don't listen to the show and you're criticizing it, then I couldn't care less what you think.
Right.
To be honest with you. You got some axe to grind, or you've got some agenda that the show's not supporting. It's a free country.
Yes, it is.
So, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so the hero darter. I think everybody kind of knows somebody like that, and I don't do it myself, but every now and then, I'll take a shot just for the fun of it. Like I was playing cricket.
It
with
also
some
depends
guy.
on the situation, right?
Well, yeah, because I abhor losing.
Yeah.
So I was playing some guy yesterday just for fun. Yeah, I went out to practice last night because I was so miserable over the weekend. I was like, I got to make sure it's not permanent. And I needed 3 bulls and a trip 15 to win the game. I was way ahead. I go double bull, and then tried to throw the 6 count. And the guy's like, how come you didn't go for the 15? I was like, I wanted to see if I could throw 6 bulls. And he flipped me off.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I never do hero shots. And then here I am.
You decided to do one.
Some
well,
people,
I
I
think
guess,
it kind of warranted the bird a little bit, I would think.
Yeah, well, he's a friend of mine.
But
I got a lot of birds from Joe Cheney too.
Did
over
you?
The weekend? Although we did come up with a truce that would work with Hamas and Israel. So maybe Joe Cheney and I should fly over to Israel. We'll settle it all.
Oh,
because we settled our thing in like 10 seconds. It was pretty cool. So if you're listening, Chainsaw, yay.
I didn't know you guys had a spat.
It wasn't really a spat. I was just kind of goofing on him, and he was goofing right back. And then we decided to declare a truce on the goofing.
Oh, okay.
So it was fine. Okay, so what's number 2?
Actor.
We did hero, now an actor.
And what's the difference between glory shot and ego? Because the ego, you're actor is actually a term that's used, I think, in Doyle Brunson's poker book to describe a type of poker player. Okay, right.
Now, admittedly, not all of you have read these long, where's the camera? These long, thick Doyle Brunson books like I have. But the idea behind an actor is you're talking about a player who's very, very expressive and plays as if they're on a stage in front of 1,000 people when actually they're not.
There's 2 people around.
Right, but it affects the decisions they make in the game, and it affects their mood because they tend to get a little more high when they hit and a little more low when they miss than, people that are not actors.
Yeah.
They make a lot of expressions, and some of them will be deceptive where they'll throw a 9 count and look unhappy, and they'll throw a 2 count and be laughing. I mean, they're just like emotionally expressive.
Okay.
When you play emotional players, you can play on that. You don't have to use gamesmanship on it, but if you recognize that somebody's getting emotional in a tight match, then you want to keep it tight.
Right.
All right, we'll get into changing the pace later.
Yeah.
But that's a tell as far as like what kind of game works against an actor versus what kind of game works against a hero. Like the third one here is a gunslinger. It's a personality type, but it doesn't really, there's not a particular game that is associated with a gunslinger.
Right.
Right? Gunslingers are very enthusiastic players that really like playing. They like banging the board. They like being competitive. So to use that against them, it's pretty easy when you think about it. Like I've seen this. There's one pro that I've seen play that plays off against gunslingers really good because he pretends he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And it just deflates them. Right, because it's like they think they're in a match, and then they got somebody who's very nonchalant, very blasé. Of course, they're still hitting stuff.
Right,
and
then they get upset because it looks like he doesn't care.
Yeah, if you're playing the man, you also have to play, the emotions that they're using and stuff like that. And this all factors into the idea is once you identify who you're playing, we'll show you what types work better against other types, and that tells you what kind of game to play, which is coming later.
Right.
Right. So
if we ever get to it.
Yeah, this is taking a while, isn't it? Playing a god is really not fun when they're hitting.
Well, sure.
Right.
Well, that's just because they're going to be more and more confident.
Yeah.
Every dart they hit.
Everybody knows somebody who plays like a god. They're supremely confident, almost to the point where they can throw window 1 count window and act like they're winning.
Yeah.
Which I wish I could be like that. Because, I get down on myself when
you miss.
Throw one mark in 9 darts.
Yeah.
I tend to get pretty frustrated, and to be
Most
honest,
people
I'm not
do.
used to it. Yeah.
Right.
So the supremely confident guys, what you're looking for when you play a god is one good round at the right time in the first leg. Because the minute you crack them, they're cracked for good.
Okay.
That's my experience with gods, and I actually know quite a few of those.
Break their confidence immediately?
Well, yeah. Yeah, because, somebody who's that confident, who isn't Phil Taylor, is practicing self-delusion.
Right.
So that's pretty, the minute you show them a little bit of reality, it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
There goes the dream.
They start
right?
thinking.
I've seen people, I actually know somebody who's a god, that all I have to do is throw a 7 count in the first 3 darts, and he's done. And he's a good player.
Right.
This is like mentally kind of where he's at, where if you start out with a 2 count,
yeah,
you're hosed.
Right.
You're going to be pretty far behind right off the bat. So, now a roller, I don't really like this. I mean, momentum players are kind of difficult for me because I don't see that many of them.
Okay.
But I see a lot of soft hippers that I classify as momentum players. And a momentum player throws fast and tries to get on a roll, hence the term roller.
Yeah.
And the more they're on a roll, the better they throw. So these are the guys that you really have to put the brakes on them early. So when you're playing a roller, you're gonna almost invariably point on the 20s or 19s for like 2 or 3 rounds, and slow everything down.
Okay.
Right. Gamblers, I call them risk takers, but unlike like hero shots, they calculate stuff a little bit more. Like I got a little bit of gambler in me. I will every now and then take a shot that I won't normally take. Because when I analyze the risk-reward...
Like a trip 20 when they haven't closed and you down in points, stuff like that?
It's kind of like that, yeah. It's kind of like, if I miss, I won't hurt myself too much because I'm already behind, but if I hit it, then the air's out of the other guy's bubble, and I can win the leg right there.
Yeah.
Even though there's 4 or 5 numbers left to go. So, I pulled that one on Ray in Kentucky. One of those.
Yeah.
And even though I missed the shot, it was funny. He walked to the line, and he kind of like cocked his head a little bit, and he's like, wow, that would have been good.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about there. He probably doesn't remember. I don't think he even listens to the show. He's too busy. What do we got here? Now, that the tactician is probably the hardest person to play. And a hypermodern cricket player is going to end up being a tactician.
Okay.
You talk about tactics, you talk about, playing the percentages, and you talk about having enough patience to grind out a leg and play slow when you really want to play fast, but slow is called for, playing fast when you want to play slow, but fast is called for, and stuff like that. A tactician can recognize a situation and identify the best course of action, which is what, as hypermodern cricket players, this is what you want to do. This is what we want to be. Thermonuclear cricket players always play the same formula, which is one of my criticisms of thermonuclear cricket.
Okay.
It's good to have a system, but you need to be able to
vary it.
Yeah, you need to be able to recognize the situation you're in and have some outs.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't play... I always tell people... You probably don't remember it. It's an old movie. There's a movie with Steve McQueen called The Cincinnati Kid, where, believe it or not, they play 5-card stud poker.
Right.
You've seen the movie,
yeah.
right? Okay, so it's a big build-up to him and the champ. And, then I'm not going to give a spoiler alert. I might have mentioned this on a show last year, but eventually, the line that I remember from the movie is the wrong move at the right time. A good tactician, like the gambler, is somebody that can recognize that going off the page or going off the reservation for one round, can be the difference between winning and losing.
Okay.
You know, and it's the same thing where, you know, it's, you know, you're talking about closing, you know, when you're behind, the wrong move at the right time.
Works out.
Yeah. Invariably it does. And you've played enough cricket. Like, let's say you're playing a cricket game and la-di-da-di-da, everything's going around, and then somebody will hit something you don't expect. Especially you're playing a beginner who's throwing it like the 19s and falls into a trip 17 and then falls into a trip 16, and you're like, what just happened?
Right.
Okay, obviously, you know, they got lucky. But the idea that the unexpected can pull you out of where you need to be to play your best.
Sure.
You do it deliberately, and it becomes a weapon.
Yeah.
So get deliberately lucky.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? See what I'm saying with this? And
I guess it wouldn't be deliberately lucky. Just be...
Well, this is one of these phrases that's going to haunt me, but you want to... The idea is that, you know, these like beginners that kind of just slop in some triples on you and change the whole game, you could do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Just aim at them and hit them.
Right.
Is what I'm saying there. The last...
Is it the pill?
I'm not going to identify who the pill is, but if I identify this correctly, everyone will know who I'm talking about. Okay. When you're playing a pill, this is somebody that is almost more interested in the psychological warfare of playing you in cricket than he is actually playing cricket, he or she, where they will do all sorts of gamesmanship stuff to throw you off, as opposed to trying to beat you on the board.
Okay.
And
like
especially
moving up to the line slow or doing whatever, changing the...
Yeah, they'll make a production out of pulling their darts, and they'll talk to the chalker, and then one time they'll walk back from the left, and then one time they'll walk back from the right, and one time they'll walk back straight at you. And then all of a sudden they'll play fast, and then they'll play slow. And they'll vary their pace, and they'll talk, and they'll ask questions. And the minute you hit something good, they'll stop for 2 minutes or go to the bathroom. Or, you know, all of a sudden their flight's messed up and, you know, whatever.
It takes a couple minutes to change them,
You know, whatever. I mean, people like that are all about gamesmanship generally don't win, which is why they're like that. But it does make... You have to recognize who you're playing and be on guard against it, right?
Because it can frustrate you.
Yeah. And that's happened to me before, and not to be ripping on soft hippers, but there is one thing about soft hip that I don't understand that doesn't happen with steel. When I play soft hip tournaments, and I've only played 2. I've played the Bull Shooter in Chicago, and I played Darts Live Asia in Vegas. The boards are so close together that invariably the players turn around and walk straight back, which you don't do in steel. In steel, you exit from the sides. And I found that I played a steel thing where somebody did that in steel, and it was messing me up because I'd be kind of ready to throw, and then I'd have to move and get set again. And it took me a while to realize, okay, just wait till they get back.
Yeah.
And then, you know, get set. Just wait. That's all I got to do. Simple. But, you know, little things like that, you know, if you're not expecting them, can mess you up.
They can throw you off.
Right. And this is just, you know, when you're identifying, know who you're playing. There are some people that are going to talk. There's some people that are going to, like, talk to their partner.
Yeah.
If you're playing doubles. And I've heard accusations of, well, they're doing it on purpose. And I know one guy who deliberately, I heard him say he's going to shank one.
Okay.
Well, 1 9-count later, I very smugly walked back that side of the board.
Yeah.
Because normally I was walking away the other side, and just to let him know, yeah, I heard that. Yeah. Just, you know, you have to be ready for this stuff. And people that kind of play in bars with their friends and are always joshing around and stuff are maybe used to it. But tournament players, you don't always come across this because, you know, there is a certain degree of professionalism that most people, you know, try to exhibit.
Yeah.
So when you're going to play cricket, it's very important to know who you're playing. And these are the types of players that if you can identify them, it's going to help you determine what kind of game is going to be most successful. Right, so we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll start talking about some of these matchups and how fortuitous it would be if you could follow this and then adjust your game accordingly. Okay, so we'll be back in a minute. Okay, we are back for the second
half.
Brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor.
People are asking. People are asking for examples. Are you willing to dish out some examples?
Okay, here's the thing. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to do it. I'm just reluctant because, I seem to be getting ripped in real life on everything I say about everything. And some people, I believe, are deliberately misconstruing some of the stuff I say just to give me a hard time.
Well, that's possible.
But I will try to give a couple of examples just so people understand, kind of what I'm talking about. Like, you
want to identify the pill first?
No. No, because because I don't want to, I think everybody knows a pill. I think I kind of described that pretty well. A tactician who's a percentage player and a grinder, I would have to, I'm trying to think if, there goes our bandwidth. Awesome.
Oh, boy. And it's back.
Okay, now it's back. I would have to say for a tactician, the guy that I want to mention as a percentage player and a grinder, you know what? I'll say Sawyer. I'll say Tom Sawyer or I don't want to say Darren. Maybe Bob Seneve. Bob plays a pretty standard thing of cricket.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would have to say like Tom Sawyer or Bob Seneve are
would fit
pretty
that
good
description.
examples of tacticians. They play pretty correctly. It's hard to pull moves on them that they haven't seen before. If you try to get cute and there's a flaw in your strategy, they'll recognize it right away and try to capitalize on it. I wouldn't call them hypermodern players. I'd call them like pretty experienced thermonuclear players. A gambler risk taker, I would have to put somebody like Jimmy Widmer or Joe Cheney in that category, where these are guys that will take shots on the assumption that they won't miss,
that they're going to hit it right.
But if you're looking at the game, you'll see, okay, that's not really the safe way to play. Right.
But if they hit it,
well, then everything is good.
Yeah.
For somebody who's like supremely confident, I would have to like say maybe Darren Young and Timmy Bagley. Mm-hmm. Like these are guys that always think they're going to hit. They always play with confidence, and the more they hit, the more confident they get.
It just builds.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess they could be, something like God/roller types.
Yeah.
Right, where you have to slow them up right off the bat, or you're going to get steamrolled.
Like when Darren Young threw like 2 9-counts against you, and what are you going to do?
Well, what I didn't do was like throw the 7-17s in the middle of his 2 9-counts.
Right.
That would have slowed him up. For a juicer, a lot of the soft hippers I think are juicers. They play so fast, too fast. Most of them.
Okay.
Most of the fast players I see play too fast for their ability. Everybody knows guys like that on the steel side. I can't really think of anybody offhand. Maybe like a Brandon Rogers. Brandon throws pretty fast.
Yeah.
Of the for people that of the people that are like famous.
Right.
I mean, everybody. I could name local guys like this, but
nobody's going to know who you're talking about.
Yeah, the audience probably wouldn't know them. I used to be an actor. I would have to say there's a player in Dayton I think that could definitely be referred to as an actor that play the national circuit. What's a good one? I can't think of a good example offhand. I wasn't really going to give concrete examples
for
of this
these
stuff.
People.
Do
you know of a hero?
I know a lot of heroes, but that's a somewhat detrimental term.
Yeah.
So I don't want anybody to get mad at me. But The hero who's playing for his own ego and stuff like that, I would look to people who play in New York or Tennessee.
Okay.
Dave DePriest is kind of an actor, now that I think of it, although he would not agree with this. But he has that kind of he has that actor thing, he kind of responds to his shots and stuff like that. If you look at a lot of the guys that are in the top 20, it's difficult to tell what they hit as they're walking from the line. They almost always have the same expression. Yeah. I wonder if Scotty Burnett's a juicer. I think he's kind of a rhythm shooter. I think some of these, I think some of the Canadians could be classified as juicers, like Jay Barlow, Chris White. They throw fast, they get to the line, and it's like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I wish sometimes I could play faster. I wish I could play as fast as Jay.
I don't think being
or Chris
classified as any of these are a bad thing. It's just the way.
Yeah, wait till I go to Philly and I hear about. Oh, I heard you called me a juicer.
Right. Well, they can suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to go on the road. You can start going on the road and talking to some of these people.
Right.
And, hearing some of the stuff I'm hearing and being like, what?
What are you talking about?
What? So, the other things that you need to, and we'll just wrap up, how to identify your opponent. There's 3 things that you want to add to this because, they kind of supersede the personality and game types. And number 1 is, what their overall ability is.
Yeah.
And this can bite you if you're not careful. The idea here is if you're going to look at your opponent and judge their overall ability, don't under any circumstances underestimate them.
Right.
Because that always
come back to bite you.
Invariably.
Yeah.
It always does. And it has cost me the first leg in some first rounds, even this year.
Well, that pretty much works in any sport, too. You really just you never want to underestimate your opponent.
I don't know. I mean, first rounds are funny. When you get called, you're in some tournament, you get called in the first round, and I've been around a while. If I get called in the first round against somebody I've never heard of, and I watch them throw 6 darts, and I look at them in the air, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay, well,
let's get this over with.
Well, I don't really, I don't think like that, but I'll be kind of like, okay, well, all right, we'll make this a good warm up.
Yeah.
Right? And, invariably I'll win the diddle and throw nothing. I have to throw like a 1 or 2 count. And then invariably it's like trip, single, trip.
Yeah.
And
now you're down.
I'm like, well, what do you think now, Steve?
Yeah.
You think you pegged him right? You dummy. So, however, it is important to know the overall ability of your opponent. And I think soft tip, people who play a lot of soft tip have an advantage here. Because let's say there's somebody that you play once a week or something. At the end of your match, you always get like a marks per round when you're playing cricket. So you can kind of like viscerally or just get a sense of, I'm playing so-and-so. Yeah, he usually throws about a 4.
Yeah.
He usually throws about a 5. Whatever the number is. That can help you. Steel tippers don't get that.
Right.
We don't get the instant feedback about marks per round and all this other stuff. So I don't keep a book on people, but I kind of remember the remarkable stuff in certain matches and stuff, and I think that helps in the long run. So but when you start calculating stuff, it's helpful if you can get an idea of the overall ability of your opponents. Because in absent of that, you have to assume that they're going to throw perfect darts.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
All other things being equal, if you know nothing, assume the worst and, expect and hope for the best, right? So if you don't know anybody, you should be treating them like
they're just going to
master players until they prove otherwise.
Yeah.
Don't do it the other way. Well, I'm going to assume he stinks until he can hit something.
Yeah.
That comes later.
That's
And I'll give you an example about that if you remind me. The whole that, don't assume that they are bad until they prove otherwise, because at some point you do that. That's part of the thing.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Also, you want to look at what the current conditions are, because especially, I got more guys telling me they're playing these online darts where you put your, get on Skype, put your webcam at the board and start playing people. It's like, it's pretty hard to translate your living room game and take that on the road. I don't know how many people this year have said, yeah, I play really good in my basement, but then I go to a tournament and, things aren't that good, anything. Right? And, it's funny, like Jill was telling me.
How many different conditions can there be in a dart tournament?
Well, there's a lot, depending on where they're from and stuff like that. Like, I guarantee you, there are people that cannot stand silence.
Okay.
There are people that cannot stand good lighting because they play
in bars
where there's music dark and noisy.
Yeah.
And that's where they're used to playing darts. So I've seen people asking tournament directors to turn down the lights and turn up the music so they can start playing darts. Right? So if you can pick up on something like that somebody's out of their element, then you know that part of your decision-making process is going to be, how can I put more pressure on him early as opposed to late, right?
Keep him uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, we're going to get to the pressure thing. But,
right.
Well, yeah. Well, not so much keep him uncomfortable, just, get rid of him right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, keep him uncomfortable. Yeah, get him uncomfortable and keep him uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's what that's all about. The silence thing is hilarious. How many people cannot play in a quiet room?
Yeah.
And it was funny. I was watching that Championship League darts they have in England, which is the strangest thing you've ever seen because there's no audience.
Okay.
And it's just like, watching two guys play darts with no crowd and no nothing. And it's so different from what you normally see in the PDC.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm sure it's going to help their games, but it's not a fantastic viewing experience. I mean, it's like a boxing match in an empty gym.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Just two guys.
Then it's more like chess, where, there's like no crowd. Like when Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky played, and Fischer was all like, oh, this room's too noisy, and I think they're beaming like infrared, microwaves at my head to throw me off. So they had to play in like a back room away from the audience, and they just like had a video camera.
Yeah.
Then he complained the camera was too loud.
Oh, really? Okay.
He would be an actor.
Yeah.
Bobby Fischer.
Right.
Bobby Fischer would be an actor. And the last consideration, and this is kind of hard, and the funny thing is, this is something that isn't going to really help the first time you play somebody. It'll help later. Whereas, like, why are they here?
At the tournament.
Yeah, because if somebody's just there to have a good time, and they're relaxed, and they're going to take chances, and they're not going to feel a lot of pressure because they don't really care.
Right.
They're just out to have fun. You approach them a different way than the tournament guy who's trying to get 80 points and knows he needs to win 2 more rounds to get his, top 32 points and stuff. You can play those guys differently, and you should play those guys differently.
Okay.
Right? So if you can identify why somebody's there, they're there because, their girlfriend wanted to come to a dart tournament. They're there because it's in Vegas and they really want to gamble. And, they may not even care.
Yeah.
Those are the games. You're playing somebody that's just there to have some fun. Get it over with quick. Don't let them get into it. Just send them on their way. Tell them,
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Bet on black.
Great.
I mean, I don't know. Something like that. All right, let's take our last break, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back.
Fourth quarter.
Brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. I mean, we always say fourth quarter, and then I'm thinking about the Bears last night, and it was just...
Did they play 4 quarters? They didn't even play 1. It was very depressing.
I don't understand how, no matter who your backup quarterback is, he looks like a fish out of water.
Right.
These guys got a backup quarterback, and
he looked
he's
great.
playing all world.
Yeah.
Admittedly, playing 11 on 5 is not fair.
No.
I mean, we should really bring an offensive line
it would
now
help.
and then.
Right. And they did.
And we didn't.
Yeah. So.
Gabe Karimi has something seriously wrong with that guy.
He looks awful.
Well, no, he's hurt. He's physically hurt. Him and Peppers are both hurt. I mean, if you're backpedaling and you can't stop, there's something wrong with your knees. They keep drafting damaged goods. What makes them think these guys are going to be able to play?
Watching the Wisconsin game over the weekend, too, and the announcer was talking about how Wisconsin is just repeatedly putting out NFL-ready offensive linemen. And
Name one.
And the only thing I can think of is Gabe Karimi would not be in that category. But apparently we thought they were.
I never thought that. I thought he was messed up in preseason, and then he was down for the year with his kneecap falling behind his knee or something. Okay, anyway, we have we will announce the finalists for our 5 awards next week.
Okay.
So we're going to have...
that included the new award that we're coming up with?
We're getting to that.
Okay.
So the 5 awards we have are men and women's player of the year.
Yes.
Men and women's outstanding player, most outstanding player, and newcomer of the year.
Yeah.
That's 5. But I'm adding an award.
We have a new
this
category.
Year. We have a new category that maybe people will like. We are going to award the Jack Wagon of the year.
The Jack Wagon of the year.
Right. This is the person that has, disgraced, besmirched, or set back the cause of darts more than anyone else in the calendar year of 2012. And we already have a couple of pretty good nominations.
Okay.
Dino.
And we're asking
if anybody's got anybody aside from Dino or the usual suspects, I'd like to hear about it.
Okay.
Because I think,
send us an email.
Send us an email and let us know why you think
he's
what
a
you
jack
think.
wagon. Please let us know why you think he's a jack wagon.
You think what you think, and we'll put it before the committee. And unfortunately, there can only be one winner. But I think this is a worthy endeavor.
Award.
I think it's a worthy endeavor. I think I'm pretty critical of everything.
Yeah,
I try to be constructive with my criticism, and some people don't like it, and
too bad.
Well, hey, you can't please everybody.
No.
We do the best we can given our, limited resources. We do what we can.
Yeah.
And, we hope everybody, takes everything. We're sincere anyway.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. We have some announcements, but we probably hold them off till next week. But the Jack Wagon of the year, if we can get some nominations for Jack Wagon of the year, that'd be great. We have finalists for every other category, so that's all we're really that's all we're looking for there. Side note, Ashley Despain, I liked your walk-on song.
Okay.
He's in the chat room sometimes. I talk to him in Columbus. He's like, "Oh man, I got a new walk-on song." And I'm like, "Really?" So he sent me.
We did those a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, he didn't play in Virginia.
Did he have a
Beach,
nickname?
So. No, but it was funny. He got called to the tournament desk right off the bat before the first event because apparently they thought he was a woman because he signed up in the men's event as Ashley Despain, and they were like, "Did we put this in the wrong thing?"
Yeah.
And Southerners will know that Ashley, or anybody that read Gone with the Wind, will know Ashley's a guy's name in the South.
Right.
But it's not really that common.
Not around here, no.
The Mason-Dixon line or what have you. So, and next week I want to discuss something seriously, and we'll try to get some input on this, and we'll start doing interviews again, probably if not next week, the week after.
Okay.
Because we're going to get the award winners on the show. Hopefully. There's been a lot of articles. I like reading Dartoids articles. I've always enjoyed them. He's got a particular slant looking at darts, and he's a good player, but he's got a recreational kind of agenda when it comes to darts. He goes to darts to have good time and stuff like that. And he's been writing for over a year now about how soft tip is like the next big thing, and the center of the dart universe is moving from England to Asia and stuff like that. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I think American darts is at a very could go either way kind of place right now. And I want to talk about that, and also, so we can start talking about what the majors are, because we're going to have to
we're going to have to identify those too,
and we'll do those. We will do those before the end of the calendar year.
Right. Speaking of the end of the calendar year, you wanted to talk about what you have coming up in December.
Well, that's for you. I put a calendar together of what we're going to cover every week till the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, because what I'm hoping to do is if I can get some interviews with the award winners, then we'll do like Newcomer of the Year one week, and then the next week we'll do Outstanding Player, and the third week we'll do Player of the Year. If I can get everybody, recorded in time so we can play them, and then we'll save Jackwagon of the Year for the end of the year show. We'll have to talk and see if we can do the last show of the year. Like, what day of the week is Christmas? Isn't Christmas Monday, like a Wednesday?
Christmas Eve is Monday night.
Okay. And then we're going to have to talk about moving to Wednesdays.
So Christmas Day is on Tuesday.
Well, we'll talk about this offline. If there's any changes to the schedule, we'll give everybody ample notice. We'll be here, though, next Tuesday at the normal time, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. And
anything with your haircut?
Well, yeah, from what I heard, nobody donated anything, so I'm not going to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And apparently the Major League Darts event in Nashville was canceled, so I won't be going there either. So that means I will be going nowhere.
You don't know?
You know what? I don't know. I assume that there were some issues, and I'm tempted to talk to Brian Jackson about it, but I haven't had time.
So you have about a month off from tournament?
Hopefully I'll be able to put more time into the show this month and get the website up, since I don't have to travel for a while.
Right.
It seems like I've been traveling a lot this year, and it just feels like it anyway. So we'll talk about that next year. Or next week.
Next week.
But we'll be back at the normal time next week, and we'll let everybody know what the holiday schedule is going to be.
Right.
What day of the week is Christmas?
It's Tuesday.
So obviously we can't do a show on the 25th.
And then New Year's Eve or New Year's Day is Tuesday.
All right, we'll have to figure something out. All right, we'll figure out the holiday schedule offline. We'll have a show every week regardless of what day it is. And as usual, you can always get the podcast from iTunes, from Stitcher.com, from TuneIn.com. You can search us on YouTube. Just type in Dart Talk US, and you'll get the archive of all our video shows. And check us on Facebook, and you can always email us at darttalk@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
Got anything else?
Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We will Dart Talk to you next week. Everybody take care.